Good morning, everybody. Good morning, my friends in Mauritius and also on the African continent. Welcome again. And here today I've got Trevor Ward, who a lot of people know Trevor. He's extremely well known on the continent, not only in Nigeria, not only in West Africa, but across the continent. And Trevor, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you. You too.
And you are not currently on the continent as we speak. You are currently in Turkey.
That's right. I'm at home in Turkey. I made my scheduled trip because I commute between here and Africa. I made my scheduled trip here in mid-March, and well, that was that, wasn't it? Not being able to get back to Africa since mid-March, and here we are, beginning of August.
Absolutely. And how are things in Turkey?
Everything's good. I mean, everything's good. Everything's bad. But personal life, thank you very much. Everything's fine. Thank you.
Fantastic. And obviously, you live quite close, just outside Istanbul. And the question I have for you is: are you seeing planes or Turkish airline flying in and out?
Funny question. Yeah, we're actually not far from what is the new airport up here on the Black Sea coast. Funny enough, I was sitting in my garden yesterday and a plane went over. And I looked at that plane and thought, I haven't seen many of them. We're not actually on the flight path. Turkish Airlines are flying to mostly European and I think US destinations, but I don't believe they've started to any African destinations yet. They keep saying they're going to fly to Nigeria, but of course Nigerian airports are still closed. So they keep putting a date and then pushing it back and back and back. We don't know when the airports will be open in Nigeria again for international flights. Domestic flights are working in Nigeria.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, hopefully, I mean, we've seen last couple of days, the international airports in Kenya and Rwanda have opened up. So slowly but surely, and then also the islands, in the Indian Ocean Islands, the Seychelles have opened up as well.
That's right. Yeah. First
so
flight into Seychelles yesterday, I think, and Rwanda has started. Kenyan have started. Yeah.
Absolutely. Trevor, we're going to be talking about development pipelines in the hospitality sector, your perspective of what's been happening and what's currently happening. So you've put together a presentation. I'll let you go through your presentation, and then at the end, I would obviously have a couple of questions. Yeah. So it's all yours, Trevor.
Thanks, Kevin. All mine. I guess for the presentation, we need to think about where we were at the beginning of the year. The obvious question is, where are we now? And that I'm sure will be one of your questions. But let's look at this as if we were sitting in January, February 2020, when we gathered the data from the hotel chains, 39 chains with well over 100 brands between them. They gave us the data of deals that they have signed for managing, franchising, in one or two cases owning new hotels in Africa. The whole of Africa, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the Indian Ocean Islands, 54 countries in all. So that's where we stood at the beginning of the year. When the chains told us that they had 408 rooms in their, 408 hotels in their development pipelines. Yeah, okay, that's what 2020 feels like, but we'll get to that in a minute, I'm sure, with the questions. At the beginning of 2020, this is where we were, that Sub-Saharan Africa, not surprisingly, given that it's 49 countries, including the Indian Ocean, ahead of North Africa with 5 countries, but not that far ahead, considering it's 5 countries versus 39 countries. There's a total at the end of 2019 of 408 hotels in the development pipelines, and that's about 78 6,000 hotel rooms. You'll notice perhaps there was a little bit of a dip in 2019 in sub-Saharan Africa. And that was because the hotel chains despaired, I guess, of some of the deals in their pipelines ever happening. And they did a bit of a cleansing. So there was a dip there, but growth again. And in 2019, it was 3.7% up on 2018. So there was still growth coming at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. Where was that happening? Well, I think this table speaks for itself. A couple of points to notice: that in the top 10, you have 4 out of 5 of the countries in North Africa. That's Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. Libya, no surprise, ain't there. The other thing to have a look at is that very large average size of hotels in Egypt. And I don't know whether you can see my cursor, but while the number of rooms is way ahead of number 2, Nigeria, in not that many more hotels, 48 in Nigeria, plays 54 in Egypt. The size of deals being signed in Egypt is actually double the size of those being signed in Nigeria. And look at Cape Verde as well. Huge hotels being signed in Cape Verde. So they come in at number 5 with not that many hotels, but a lot of rooms because of that huge size. So in sub-Saharan Africa, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Cape Verde, South Africa, Kenya, and maybe surprising Senegal coming in there as well. So that's where it's happening. But Kevin, I really do prefer to talk about cities rather than countries. So if we look at the cities by number of planned rooms, Cairo comes in there at 6,250 rooms. That's 19% of the top 10. If I just go back to Egypt, so we see Cairo with 6,000 rooms, but Egypt with 17,000 rooms. It's because an awful lot of those rooms in Egypt are actually happening in Alexandria, in Sharm el-Sheikh, which is on this chart, and on the north coast, which is the new development area of Egypt, mostly for leisure tourism. Addis Ababa, which has always been a focus of new development, Lagos, Nairobi, and then you've got 2 resorts in Egypt, Hurghada, Sharm el-Sheikh. Algiers, Abuja, Abidjan, and Dakar make up for the balance there. So Egypt actually has 3 cities there. Dakar, again, interestingly, Dakar, of course, now is 2 cities. You've got the original Dakar, and you've got Diamniadio, the new city where the new airport is located. So that's where it's happening. Who's doing it? These are the brands. So when you see Hilton there, that's Hilton brand, not company. I'll come to company. Hilton has the largest number of rooms as a brand there, just over 6,000. Deals signed for new hotels to be branded as Hilton. Radisson Blu, not that far behind. Marriott, well, actually quite a long way behind as a brand, but I'll show you the company Marriott in a minute. Notice that Hilton have 3 brands on that chart. They've got Hilton, Hilton Garden Inn, the HGI down there, and Doubletree by Hilton, and then Marriott have their core brand and JW Marriott as well. The standouts here are the size of two Accor brands that they are huge hotels compared to anybody else, and that's the Fairmont and the Swissôtel. Fairmont and Swissôtel came in to the Accor stable when they bought Fairmont Raffles hotels. So Swissôtel particularly are very, very big boxes. And I think all of those Fairmonts and Swissôtel big boxes are up there in Egypt. If we now look at companies, okay, so these are the quoted stocks. This is what the owners of Marriott stock will be looking at. Here we have a slightly new analysis that we have pipeline rooms in the purple. Of those pipeline rooms, the blue is what's on site under construction. And then the grey boxes, which you may or not be able to see, are the average size of those hotels. So Marriott and Accor are pretty much level pegging there, with a similar number of rooms in their pipelines, a similar number under construction. Hilton, Radisson, smaller pipelines, but you can see that Radisson as a proportion have a much larger number of their rooms actually on site under construction. So perhaps more likely to actually be realized and start producing revenue for and income for shareholders of those chains. And then most of the other chains, even surprisingly, Intercontinental Hotels Group, IHG, quite small in comparison to those four major chains. What are they signing? I find this slightly surprising in that franchise deals are still only 10% of the pipeline. Now, historically, the chains have said, no, we won't franchise into Africa. We don't have confidence in management. Okay. And then recently, the chains have been saying, yes, we will franchise. And particularly, you have Marriott and Hilton doing franchises. Radisson still will not franchise. Hyatt has signed a couple of franchises, but it doesn't seem to be getting much bigger as a proportion. Maybe we'll see that in the future, because one trend we've seen is that existing hotel owners are signing with the chains for their soft brands as franchises. So maybe next year that proportion of franchises will go up. The others tend to be owned hotels. So the likes of City Lodge, which own their hotels in Africa, are in that pipeline there. But obviously, as you can see, I mean, the majority of 78,000 rooms, 68,000 are in typically vanilla management agreements. Now, this is where we start talking about 2020. What we look at here on the green bar is what we call the actualization rate. So if I explain that in 2019, the blue bar shows that the chains told us that in 2019, all opened 91 hotels. Opened 68 hotels, and that was 75% of what they told us. Now, 75% open, now that compared to a pretty dismal performance down here in 2018, when they only opened about 45% of what 45% of what they thought they were going to open. So it was getting better, wasn't it? The trend was upwards with a blip down in 2018. There's no explanation I can give for that. But the actualization rate, we opened 75% of what we thought we were going to open that year. What is going to happen in 2020? Well, we don't know until we get to the end of 2020, but inevitably, of the 90 hotels here that the chains told us they would open in 2020, inevitably, the actualization rate is going to be much lower because of the crisis we're in at the moment. It'll be difficult to finish hotels, and even if they do finish hotels, what is the point of opening them when demand is so low? So here we move from the history into the future. This is signing. This is what the chains actually managed to sign in the last 3 years. A big increase in 2018, but a decrease in 2019 in the number of deals signed that year. What's 2020 going to look like in terms of deals signed? Well, the hunters, the deal makers, are locked down. They cannot travel round Africa, and some of them can't even travel domestically. Those based perhaps in Nigeria and South Africa haven't been able to travel until quite recently. Owners are typically, I'm sure, going to be wanting to sign fewer deals in 2020, but we don't know. The future's unclear. It looks a bit like this, doesn't it? The new reality is looking out, and all we can see is this terrible, terrible crisis, having the personal tragedy and the economic tragedy, which also becomes the personal tragedy for those people who've not been able to work. So, Kevin, I leave it there, that we don't know what the new reality is going to be. That is the 2020
Thanks,
hotel
Trevor.
chain development pipeline in Africa.
Fantastic, Trevor, for these slides. I'm going to ask you probably to go back to one or two of these slides.
Sure.
It's interesting. I think it was your second slide, if I'm not mistaken. If you wouldn't mind going back here.
I think you mean the third one, the second one.
The third slide. Yeah,
that one there. That one there?
The next one, yeah, the next one.
That one there.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So obviously Egypt is in a league of its own, yeah? It's got its own dynamics. It's closer to the Middle East. It's much closer to where you are currently. Very different perspective of what's happening in the rest of Africa. What's interesting here in this table, I would love to have your views, because you not only have the perspective of West Africa, but also across the continent. Number 5, Cape Verde.
Yeah.
What's happening there? What's been happening there?
Is Cape Verde in Africa? Good question. It's actually quite close to Europe, the European markets. It's like maybe a 4-hour flight, 3-4 hour flight from Europe, which makes it a competitor with some of the North African resorts. It makes it a competitor, certainly with Egypt, as a resort destination. And it has both the summer and the winter sun. And Cape Verde themselves have been promoting it as a destination. You have tour operators have piled in there. There's a company called Rui, which is associated with TUI, one of the largest tour operators in the world. And they have built big boxes on the beach, 500 rooms typically. So Cape Verde is already on 3 or 4 of the islands, already an established destination. And others are going in there as well to take advantage of this winter sun, summer sun beach destination.
And are these sort of mid-scale or type of developments? Mid-scale
and upscale. Not only Hilton have gone in there, Radisson Blu have gone in there, so they're upper upscale. A lot of second homes have been built as well, so you see a lot of hotels there with residential for second homes, again, from the North European market.
Interesting, very interesting. And again on this table, Senegal number 9, and the question here is, when we talk about West Africa, Francophone Africa, the last 10 years, Côte d'Ivoire has always come up, but then it doesn't seem to be featuring in that table. I mean, why not?
Well, Abidjan is there, if I may. Abidjan is there in the city table.
Yeah.
Senegal is there because, why? One of the features of these countries in the top 10 is that they have multiple cities or resorts where hotels can be developed. If you go to some of the smaller countries, and I'm actually going to take Rwanda as an example, yes, there are 1 or 2 small resorts which are not seeing those chain hotels develop. Rwanda's pretty much Kigali, isn't it, on its own? There are many countries like that: Benin, Togo, Liberia, even Côte d'Ivoire. It's really only Abidjan where you can have hotel development. Okay, there's Yamoussoukro, but there's not enough traffic to Yamoussoukro to really justify international hotel development. Senegal has Dakar, which took over some of the role that Abidjan lost during the Civil War, which is not that old, okay, or since it finished. Senegal took over, Dakar took over. Dakar's had political stability, economic stability. I call it the steady eddy of West Africa. You now have the new city of Diamniadio to the south of Dakar, where the new airport is. Plus you have the beach resorts further south. So Senegal has more places to develop than other countries, including, you mentioned, Côte d'Ivoire. If you look at Dakar, where's Dakar? Actually fewer rooms in the pipeline than Abidjan.
Which is interesting. So, which could be, as you've mentioned, which obviously developments outside Dakar, which is Diamniadio, and then also on the sort of resorts locations of Senegal. Yep. So the product offering is more than Côte d'Ivoire, which is more Abidjan and city hotels, basically.
Senegal is the only location in West Africa with a Club Med resort, which of course Club Med were the pioneers of international tourism.
Yeah, and to this slide, yeah, cities, yeah. So here, Sub-Saharan Africa, Lagos, Nigeria, just Lagos. Is that where most developments are happening?
Lagos and Abuja are the 2 major cities where you have the international airlift, you have the domestic airlift as well. Lagos is the commercial capital, used to be the political capital up to 1991. Lagos is the commercial capital. It has the main international airport. It has a very large proportion of the economy. It depends how you count. But you can say that it has the, say, 40-50% of the economy is in Lagos, 2 deep water ports, and so on and so forth. Abuja is the political capital. Abuja is where the money is. Abuja controls the government income and then distributes it to the states from the oil industry. So there's a lot of visitation to Abuja for that, for dealings with government, for contracts. Plus, it has been an international convention city. Its future that I hope is still confirmed, that it will be the convention capital of northern sub-Saharan Africa and West Africa. The only other big city in Nigeria is Port Harcourt. It has very limited international airlift, and it's the oil town. A lot of oil industry, the administration, the government of the oil industry moved up to Lagos and Abuja because there have been problems social and civil problems down in Port Harcourt. So much less impact now in Port Harcourt.
Yeah, and I would assume as well, I mean, like this slide, I mean, we're talking about cities, Lagos, Nairobi, Addis, obviously Abuja. So here we can see the bulk of developments happening in those cities, which basically means hotels targeting business travelers as opposed to leisure.
Oh,
Yeah.
almost entirely business travelers. I'll just pick you up if I may. It's not necessarily development. These are signed deals. Not all of these by any means are actually under construction. But yes, in Lagos, yes, you do get some leisure travel on high days and holidays. Lagos in December, for example, an awful lot of the Nigerian diaspora comes back for the celebrations. Lagos is the nightlife and the day life as well. I mean, the restaurant offer in Lagos is tremendous these days. And the concerts that are held, the theatre that's held. So Lagos has attractions, but it's really only in high days and holidays. Abuja, much less so, much less so. But typically it's 70% business at least.
I mean, speaking about the diaspora, last year, 2019, it was the return of the diaspora to Ghana.
So, that's right, the year of return, yeah.
So that brought quite a bit of business to Ghana, unfortunately, this year because of COVID-19. But they did something which was pretty wonderful and pretty successful.
Well, it's interesting, Kevin, that Ghana attracts not only Ghanaian diaspora, it also attracts the wider African American diaspora. I was reading about somebody just at the weekend. An African American who said he actually doesn't know where he's from, but I tell you what, Ghana's doing this promotion. I can go to Ghana. So you'll get people who don't necessarily have that link with Ghana, but know that they are African by background.
Indeed. Trevor, my next question is going to be around the brands. Yeah, there was the next slide, or two slides, talking about the multiple brands, Radisson versus, exactly, yep, and that's the one, yep. Interesting. Hilton, I mean, the numbers clearly show there, but it's a brand which, upon my travels, I mean, I've rarely come across Hilton, strangely enough, yeah, you know. So have they been working under the radar, or what's been going on? Obviously, from a management perspective, we know very well our dear friend Andrew McLaren have left Radisson to basically join Hilton as the person in charge. But I'm quite surprised to see Hilton stacking up as number one, yeah, in terms of our pipeline number of rooms, yeah.
Well, it's the brand, isn't it? Do you remember the advertising program which ran for a long time, and I wish they'd never stopped it, where it was "Take me to the Hilton," and the taxi driver or the camel driver doesn't say what is a Hilton, but everybody knows the Hilton is a hotel. So the brand resonates. It really resonates around Africa, around the globe. So no surprise really there. But one has to say that hotel development in Africa can be very expensive. In many countries, and the exception is from Kenya and South Africa, I guess, in sub-Saharan Africa, where they make things that are used to build hotels. Nigeria, as an example, everything is imported, and it makes it expensive to build hotels. So if you look there in the middle, a lot of the focus has been quite recently from Hilton on Hilton Garden Inn, which are less expensive to build. It's an upper mid-scale brand, and has been pushed to cater not just for international travel, but also regional travel, which we believe the future of African hotels is to cater to intra-African travel, regional travel. from Kenya to Nigeria, from Kenya to Uganda, etc. But yeah, the Hilton brand, well, according to the numbers, it is supposed to be coming, but not all of them, of course, are under construction.
Yeah, and what's your perspective looking forward the next 5 years? What's your perspective of in this sort of development pipeline? Where do you see growth? You know, upper scale luxury hotels, mid scale limited service hotels. Where do you see growth?
The crystal ball ain't working, Kevin.
You need to look out of your window.
I need to look out of my window. All I see is trees. Listen, Africa is under-hoteled or famously under-demolished. There's an awful lot of hotels which are really don't deserve to be operating. And there is the penetration of the brand is very, very low compared to Egypt. Compared to Europe and compared to America. Therefore, there are still opportunities. And yes, Africa has been sorely impacted by COVID-19. But the African Development Bank just very recently is saying, well, actually, the continent will grow, will shrink by about, sorry, I don't have the numbers at my fingertips, but it is a relatively low reduction in economic growth. Let me say 2.63%, compared to Europe, which is going to be in double digits, and America, which is going to be the same. So Africa can grow again. If I take Nigeria, where I'm based, and perhaps obviously where I focus and remember more, reduction this year of maybe 3% and return to growth next year of maybe 2%. That's the IMF forecast from July. So we'll grow again. Africa has resources that the world needs. Africa has the population to generate economic growth. So we do see the hotel industry growing again, but it's just a question of when. Now you ask, where is the growth going to be? Definitely it's going to be in the mid-scale, because you are getting to the stage in many countries where the economics just don't work with expensive upper upscale and luxury hotels. The only luxury brand, well, actually Fairmont is a luxury brand. I was going to say JW Marriott, but the rest of the brands there are upper upscale and below. And that's where the growth is going to be, or I believe, in those hotels which are lower cost to develop and catering to the regional market, regional and African markets.
Good to hear. There's still opportunities, obviously underserved. There'll still be quite a number of developments in the next, at least this decade, because we need to catch up. I've got a last question, Trevor, is what are your views about, obviously we've been talking about international brands, the Hiltons, the Radissons, the Accors and whatnot. What are your views about African brands? There are a couple of African brands today, as opposed to 10 or 15 years ago. I'm thinking out here, Onomo is one, Telion Group of Hotels is another one.
Yeah, the Mangalis.
Mangalis, exactly. In East Africa as well, you've also got a couple of regional and local brands. What are your views there? How would they will they be able to compete in the market? Do you see further growth for some of these brands regionally? And
it's a huge question. It's a huge question, Kevin. The international brands, the African brands have not developed as much as you would imagine. Have a look at this slide, and do you see an African brand there? No. But you do have Marriott, let's go back to the next one, the chain. You have there Marriott as the largest company, the largest chain. But I can tell you that Protea, which is an African chain, which they purchased in, was it 2014? Protea hardly features, and it's not in the top 10 of brands. So it has been difficult for the regional, the African brands to grow, other than regionally. If you look at City Lodge, is an African brand, and they have 3 brands. They have City Lodge, Road Lodge, and Town Lodge. Very few of their hotels are outside of South Africa, and they don't have the scale for where they've opened in, for example, Nairobi. They just don't have the scale. It's difficult. The developers tend to steer themselves towards the international brands. The brands have the firepower, they have the scale to be able to compete for the international market. So I believe there's space for national brands, local brands, regional brands, but their growth will be limited going forward, because they just cannot offer what the big brands are offering in terms of that booking engine, those reduced fees to OTAs, and so on.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see that evolution. Trevor, I thought I had the last question, but I have one more question, which takes me on to that slide of management agreements versus franchise agreements. Franchise agreements are less than 10%. Are you seeing any conversion of management to franchise, or are they basically purely new deals being done leading to franchise agreements?
I've seen a couple of conversions from management to franchise. They tend to be when the owner and management company just can't get along, and the brand offers a franchise because they don't want to lose the hotel. But as a trend, no, it's not been happening. Will it happen more? You've opened an interesting question there. I believe there is more questioning of the value of brands who are managing hotels because of the COVID-19 disaster, devastation. I believe that the chains in the management agreements are going to have to prove that on the recovery, they are bringing value to their owners. We may see more conversions to franchises or withdrawals from management agreement as the recovery takes place. That is a thought.
Is that also
not a prediction?
Of, do you think that it's a sign as well as the evolution of that, in 2020 onwards, we've got experienced managers on the ground, basically, which wasn't the case probably 15 years ago or 10 years ago?
Oh, yeah. Or that is definitely the case, where the professional pool, the cadre of management ability is inevitably growing. And there are many Nigerians out there working, for example, in Dubai or Qatar or many other places, who have been trained and have the experience now to compete with their other foreign colleagues, so they can come back and are coming back to manage hotels and manage hotels as franchisees.
Fantastic. I mean, that's good news. That's the return of the diaspora, basically, to build the continent. On that note, Trevor, great to have you. Great slides. Love those numbers. Good perspective of what's been happening, but also what's in the pipeline. I guess the big question is, as you had in your last slide, I think was, we looking out of the window. So a couple of months ago, it was quite blurry and foggy. There's a bit of ray of sunlight, I guess, coming out, but I guess it's too soon. We'll have to wait until
I mean,
the
if
end
I
of the
may,
year.
I mean, I talk to the hotel chains all the time, and the hotel chains are saying it's not all dismal. We are getting inquiries. We are still signing deals. So we do not have a shutdown. This will not be zero on 2020. There is activity out there. So this will get clearer as time goes on, for sure.
Yeah. I just saw the numbers just on that. Was released a couple of days ago. Globally, I think there's probably around $2 billion of deals in the hotel industry that has been done in the last quarter, Q2. So as you rightly say, it hasn't gone down to zero globally.
Not at all. Not at all.
So that's positive. Trevor, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
When are we going to see you on the ground in Lagos or wherever else you need to travel on the continent? I would assume once the Turkish Airlines starts operating. And
well, absolutely right. You know, I have no hesitation. I got quite comfortable after several months at home, but I do hanker for an air ticket. I will be back in Nigeria when they open, when Turkish Airlines starts flying again. It's interesting that the airlines want to start. Turkish Airlines want to start flying to where they used to fly, but of course are hampered by the airlines. The airports are closed. They will start operating, yes, with a reduced schedule when the airports open. When the Nigerian government reopens the airports, I'll be there. When will that be? I don't know.
Well, on that note, we'll eagerly wait and see. The good news is, like I said earlier on, a couple of our countries in Africa have started opening up. So I would assume over the next couple of months, we're going to see others as well following suit. Trevor, thank you very much and keep well and all the best in lovely Turkey. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Goodbye.